The concept of a database is one that is pretty accessible. After all, we've all seen tables, and stretching to relationships between tables is not that far. However, when it comes to installing a database server, that is a pretty complex process, and when it comes to the terminology, that is pretty specialized. So I've been thinking about how to do this in a simpler way, and one of the things that I wanted to explore is to do it using a very, very small database, something that is called SQLite. It is so small that, in fact, you can include it on a program, and it is often used in mobile applications, and it is one of the most widely used databases. That database is called SQLite, which is a pretty good name for it. Now let's go ahead and navigate to the site. And as you can see here, there's some description about it. There's an opportunity to download it. And the downloads are tiny. And in fact, if you unzip the file that you get, it is simply a tiny, tiny file that is inexecutable, which is the database. But in fact, that is so slow that the database administrator, the visual packages, included and is built right in. So we can in fact forego the installation and go back and go directly to the GUI, the graphical user interface. And so in this case, that is precisely what we're going to do. We're going to navigate to Database Beaver, and we're going to download here the trial, the community version. And since I could not find it here on the page, it turns out that the community version has a separate address, and that is dbeaver.io/download for the downloads. And I'm simply going to download here the Windows version, the installer. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to go ahead here and allow it to be downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it. Then I'm going to go ahead and navigate here to my executable or my installer. And as you can see it, we have it here. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And I'm going to go with the defaults. And now that we have the installer, I'm going to go ahead and run it. So let's go ahead and enter the Beaver, and that'll come up in a second. And as you can see there, it is asking me whether I want to create a sample database. I'm going to go ahead and say no. And we're going to go ahead and create a database. Now we're going to go ahead and navigate here to embedded, and in it you can see there that we have SQLite. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next here, and it is now asking me to define a file. And so I'm going to go ahead and browse, and I will actually be creating a new file, and I'll do it inside here of sample, and I will call it demo dot, and the extension that you give it can be anything you like. I'm going to go ahead and give it db, and then I'm going to go ahead and open and go ahead and finish. Now as you can see there, we have a database, and if we expand it, you can see there that we are challenged and being asked if we want to install the driver, and in this case we're going to go ahead and ask it to download it. And once it does, as you can see there, it has created a full database structure. It has tables, views, etc. Now all of these will be empty. As you can see there, there's nothing. But if I open up my sample folder, now we have our demo database. And as you can see there, that is trim light. And in fact, at the moment it has 0 kilobytes. However, we can see already that that has been created, even if we didn't install the database, because as mentioned before, it is so tiny and so small that it is built right into the managers, such as the one that we're using right now. Okay, so I've closed a few windows, and now I just have Database Beaver here on the window, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up a SQL script window, and into it I'm going to go ahead and paste a table that I've created previously. As you can see there, it is a very simple table. It's called music, and it has an ID called int, and that should be ID, not int. Let me go ahead and rename that. And then I have a genre, a name, and this is supposed to be for songs. And again, it's a super simple table: an ID, the genre for the song, the name of the song, and then the artist name. And with the exception of the ID, all of the rest are just varchars. So let's go ahead and select this, and we're going to go ahead and run the script. And now if we go ahead and refresh our database here, I'm going to go ahead and do that, you can see there that now we have a table called music. Now next we're going to go ahead and populate or add some data to that table. And I'm going to go ahead and delete what I had here. And as you can see there, I am inputting a number of rows, and these rows corresponds to musics and artists, and I've made up a category, and the category is those fruits you see there. So now I'm going to go ahead and run. And it looks like that ran to completion. So I'm going to go ahead now and delete it. And now I'm going to go ahead and enter a SQL statement. And so I'm simply going to select star from, and in this case, music. Well, let's go ahead and use lowercase. And so now I'm going to go ahead and run this. And as you can see there, we get back, as expected, the information on the table. So as you can see, this is a very lightweight database. As I mentioned before, it is widely used. It is very simple to get started. We have persistence. If we were to go back to the folder itself, we'd see that this is no longer at 0 because we've added a little bit of data. But it is something that I think can illustrate the concepts of a database, or at least at the very bare bones basics. So I'm going to go ahead and share this, and you can give me some feedback.